Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our video discussion for Module 3, or the types of communication and the effective communication skills in oral communication. We then say that when we communicate, we present the message not only in words we use, but also in the manner of delivery. We will then understand this message or phrase in the content of this module. We have here a statement from our former presidential spokesperson way back in March 2020. According to Secretary Salvador Panelo, our country is now in the precipice of annihilation as he leads us to face this Armageddon of an unseen lethal invader of a disease that is creeping into our people's lifeblood, killing them slowly and painfully into their graves. Now, what can you say about former Secretary Sal Panelo's statement? Is it easy for you to understand, or is it difficult for you to understand then? We will then try to analyze the importance of communication or the different ways in effective communication in this module, starting with lesson 1, the verbal communication. It is said that when we communicate, we present the message not only in the words we use, but also in the manner of your delivery. There are some people who speaks casually, which then might lead them into something that is not believable, or there are also some people who talks in high tone or strong tone, but then they are just actually calm. Now, furthermore, verbal communication then refers to the use of words in relaying a message, either in oral or written ways. Oral communication is the process of giving information through the spoken words. Written communication refers to any form of conveying information using the written symbols. Now, to talk about this further, we have these verbal cues according to Griffin in 2012. We have the volume. This is the loudness of our voice when we speak. There are some people who talks very who has a very low volume, and that's why it tends them not to be understood by their listeners. There are also people who talks like they are shouting, but actually they are just calmness of the moment. We also have those people who has high pitches, right? So it can be the highness or the lowness of the speaker's voice then. When a person speaks in a very high pitch, no, it is uncomfortable for us to listen. So with that, we tend not to listen completely to the speaker's message. Next is we have the rate. Now, when we talk about the rate, it is the speed in talking. Also, there are some people who talks what do we call this? Very, very slow, like a sloth. Okay, you know what sloths are? These are animals who moves very slow. We also have those who talks like they are rapping, who talks like they are siblings of Glock 9 or Andrew E, which then we will not be able to understand their message properly. The, this is also important in the communication process. Moving forward, we have the pauses. These are brief silences in speech. Whenever we encounter a comma in a phrase or in a context or in an essay, pauses are very much important for us. Next is the articulation. This is the production of the specific sounds to distinguish one oral symbol from the other. Now, when we say articulation, it can be specified as the proper saying of the sounds, like the sounds of in pull and full. Okay, full or full. Okay, when somebody asks you, um, let's eat, then you respond, no, I'm full. So when you say that you are full, it means that you are crazy because that is FOOL. But when you say that, no, I'm already full. So you articulated the sound in full. So it means to say that when you are full, you need not to eat anymore because you are not hungry as of the moment. So do not say that you are full because that means that you are crazy. Moving forward, we have the pronunciation. These matters when sounds are reproduced correctly to the accepted standards of a language. Now, it is understandable for non-native speakers to not to talk very fluently in the English language. However, in other countries, they will judge you. Although in the Philippines, you can still be judged. Um, you might be misinterpreted because you were not able to pronounce it properly then. So moving forward, we have here the effective verbal communication needs to be facilitated for us to understand and develop other important skills. Now, this includes the difference between listening and hearing and the clarification skills. Now, the difference between listening and hearing is when you listen to something, it is the ability to accurately receive and interpret messages in the communication process. So, when you listen, you receive the message and you interpret it. You understand the message very well. But when you just hear it, you are just receiving the information, but you are not able to understand it. So that is the difference between listening and hearing then. Moving forward, we can become effective listeners if we will follow the 10 principles of listening. So it can be any of the following, or it can also be combining these different skills. When somebody is talking, you stop talking. When you are about to listen into something, you need to prepare yourself to listen. You need to be prepared emotionally, physically, spiritually. No, you need to be prepared in listening. Also, you need to put the speaker at ease. You need to let the speaker feel that you want to listen. Next is you remove distractions. It can be the noise that you're experiencing as of the moment. It can be the physical noises, psychological noises, which are internal or external maybe. So you need to remove these distractions in the communication process. You need to empathize. You feel what they feel. If they feel sad, you feel sad. If you think that they are feeling happy, you need to feel happy. No, do not be. You need to be on the same page with the speaker. Next is be patient. Even if the speaker tends to tell the story in a what do we call this non-believable way or something that is annoying, then you need to be patient, no, because he or she might not be that skillful in communicating with other people, so you need to understand them. Next is you need to avoid personal prejudices. Now, there will be times that before we listen to someone, we already judged them, right? So, if we already judge them, we tend not to believe what they say. And when we tend not to believe what they say, we tend not to listen because we already judged them, right? So, um, when we are listening to somebody, let us avoid personal judgments. Next is we need to listen to the tone of how the speaker is talking as of the moment. How does she feel? No? You need to be very much sensitive in those matters. Also, we need to listen for ideas and not just words. We need to listen in the message and to interpret it implicitly, the implied meaning of the words. We can also interpret it explicitly, or we can interpret it using those two ideas. We can also wait and watch for nonverbal communication, the gestures, the facial reactions of the speaker, or the posture of the speaker then. It is very much communication process. Moving forward, we have the skill of clarification. Clarification is the skill we use to ensure that we have understood the messages of the speaker in an interpersonal exchange. Now, clarification is when we try to clarify the messages sent by the speaker if we really understood it properly. Now, if you will not be clarifying the message that you have just received, then you do not understand it. It might create misinterpretation or misunderstanding between the receiver or the speaker or vice versa then. You need to clarify things. Huwag kang mag-assume lang, no? You need to clarify the things or the concept that you just have received. Moving forward, these are the purposes of clarification. It is for us to ensure that the listener's understanding of what the speaker has said is correct, which reduces misunderstanding, just what I had said a while ago. This is also a way for us to reassure the speaker that the listener is genuinely interested in him and attempting to understand what he is saying. But most of the times, we tend not to clarify things because we are not interested, right? So when the teacher will be asking you, do you understand? Do you have any questions? Just because you are not interested, what will you say? Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. And when the quiz came, you got a very low score because you tend not to clarify things, right? So we need to have the skill of clarification often. Moving forward, in the skill of clarification, we need to consider the following: the appropriateness. The language that we use must be appropriate to the environment or occasion. When someone is happy or when we are in an occasion that they're happy, you also need to be happy. You do not become KJ, right? So we also have brevity. It is using simple and precise and powerful words. So when we speak to people or to some people, we need to use the simplest words as much as possible for them to understand. Others are using highfalutin words for them to look like they are smart, but then the receivers of the message might not be able to understand the concepts properly. So we need to use the simple words as much as possible then. But it matters how on who you are talking to. Next is the clarity of the message. It is essential for you to clearly state your message and express your ideas and feelings. You need to be clear on what you're trying to say, right? So some people talks like they they are not that skillful in communicating. So when they are talking, it is not the message that they are trying to convey is not clear, and that will make the communication process vague or difficult. Next is the ethics. Now, words should be used carefully in consideration of the gender, the roles, ethnicity, the differences, and status. Now, the way you communicate with your teachers is very much far from the way you communicate to your friends. The way you communicate to your friends is very, very far on how you communicate to your parents. Now, you do not talk to your parents the same way as you talk to your friends. More so, you do not talk to your teachers the same way you talk to your friends because it will make you look like disrespectful, I think, or it can make you look like casually comfortable to talk with people who are not your friends then. Also, we need to respect their gender preferences. You respect their choices. It's their life and not your life then. We also have to be very much careful with their ethnicity, their religion as well. So if someone is Muslim, you respect the belief of Muslims. Now if somebody is a Christian, you respect the lives or their choices as Christian beings. Because we all have our freedom to believe what we wanted to believe then. We also have the vividness. We are encouraged to find ways, video, to charm your audience through vivid words. Now, this is good in the communication process. We try to be creative in talking. You just not have to say, I love you. You can also say that my heart beats for you to the moon and back. You can also say that my love for you is as deep as the ocean and as blue as the skies above. That is using the beauty of literature in expressing how you feel. And this is also called as the vividness in the process of communication. Moving forward, we have okay, that's the end for lesson one. We now have the lesson two for the nonverbal communication. Nonverbal communication, these are using of gestures, postures, facial expressions, physical appearances, and characteristics which are fundamental, essential, basic, or needed in the communication process. Now, the nonverbal cues, according to Griffin in 2012, includes the following concepts. We have the physical appearances. Now, these does not only refer to one's clothing and grooming, it also refers to how one appears before one speaks and how one approaches the podium. Let us then admit the fact that there are some speakers who are not believable because on how they stand or on how they appear in the stage. But there are also some speakers who looks believable, but the moment they speak, they are not that credible. It needs to be it needs to be complementary with each other. You look believable, your appearance looks credible, and then the way you speak also needs to be credible as well, right? So it needs to be complementary with each other. We also have the eye contact. Now, this refers to our visual contact with our audiences. When you are talking to somebody or to a group of people, you need to look them in the eye momentarily. Okay? When we say momentarily, you need not to look at them in the eye all the time because it will make them uncomfortable during the communication process. You need to look at them momentarily. Next is the facial expression. This refers to the movement of our eyes, our eyebrows, and our mouth. This sends the nonverbal cues to our audiences. Next is the proxemics. When we say proxemics, this is the distance of the speaker to the audience. How close are they? Or how far are they with each other? So that also sends a nonverbal cue for them. Now, if somebody talks to you far, or somebody talks to you very far from your distance, it means that they are not that interested. But if they talk to you as close as possible, then they try to go inside your inner circle, then it means that they are interested in your topic, or it can also mean that they are interested to you. So that is the proxemics that we're talking about. Next is, we have here some examples of the positive body language. Just browse it. When we say positive body language, it means yes, it means okay, it means agreeable or you agree. Next is, we have the negative body language. When we say negative body language, it means that you're not interested, you do not agree, it means no in some other words, or stop then maybe. We also have other examples in here. And that's the end for lesson 2. Let us now then proceed to lesson 3, the effective communication skills. The effectiveness in communication requires the following characteristics. First and foremost, we have the completeness. This means that we never leave your sentence incomplete. Okay? Then, the audience should be able to receive the complete message so that they will be able to take appropriate action. We have a lot of speakers who tend to jump from one topic to another without finishing that topic first. And with that, it creates chaos in the communication process. It creates the moment of misunderstanding or misinterpretation. Then, so when we are trying to say something, we need to complete our statement first before we jump into another topic. Next is the clarity. We need to put our message clearly in our communication so that the recipient or the listener won't get confused. Now, we need to let them be clear about what you want to convey. Again, you need to be very clear on what you're trying to say. You need to be very clear on your context of your idea or your topic so that the people will then understand you. So, moving forward, we have here the conciseness. It is the choice of words that should be chosen as per the relevance of the content. Now, we need to communicate your message in the least possible words so that you can save time. Avoid repetition and make it shorter. Others say that the more you talk, right, the more mistakes you have. So you need to be very, very careful on what you're trying to say. You need to be brief and concise. You need not to say a lot of words with just one topic. You need to just be short and direct to the point. Avoid beating around the bush. Next is we have the concreteness. Now, this is very much important in research, right? We need to put facts and figures in what we're trying to say. We need to put references. We need to say according to. We need to have a lot of evidences on what we're trying to say so that it will not look like just a rumor. So, this concreteness helps us in avoiding misinterpretations because you have sources on the things that you're trying to say. Now, especially when you're working on marketing or related presentation, being concrete in your thoughts and language holds great importance. It also adds your credibility for you to become believable by your audiences then. Moving forward, we have the correctness. The correctness refers to the grammatical or structural errors. We talk about semantics. We talk about grammar, the usage of grammar then. When communication is correct and precise, it improves your confidence level. Now, the uses of tenses in our essays or in our speeches or speaking is very much important. When it is in the present tense, it needs to be in present tense. So you do not use the verbs which are already in the past because it might have the connotation that the action is already done, but actually it is still happening as of the moment. So that is not already in the present tense then. So if it's still in the future tense, you need to use the tenses which will be in the future. So if you are using the tenses of in the past, but it's still yet to be made, it will create misinterpretation to your audiences. Then we also have the courtesy. Make sure that your communication is polite as possible, positive, and focused on the audience. Then, so we have speakers who are tending to be barbaric, right? Like they are talking into specifically those who are in power. They are using their what do we call this resources to talk into barbaric manners and said to say other people likes it, but it's not right. So we need to be as courteous as possible when we talk to people, specifically in wide audiences, because young people or children will be able to watch it. And then when you try to approve it or when you try to laugh at it, it means that you agree with it. And it is okay to talk that way. But actually, it's not. Next is the consideration. We need to consider our audience while you communicate. Are they still interested on what you're trying to say? Are they hungry as of the moment? Do they understand what you're trying to say? Because you do have different educational backgrounds. Do you have the same mindsets? So that you can become an effective communicator. So it is important that before you speak into the front of other people, you need to know their educational background, their culture, so that you will be in the same page. Next is we have the different types of listening. Now we have the informative listening. From the word itself, it is listening because you wanted to have information. This is true in many day to day situations, in education and at work. While you listen to news, watch a documentary, when a friend tells you a recipe or whatever, you have talked through a technical problem with a computer and many others. Simply saying informative listening is you are listening because you want information. Next is we have the empathic listening. You are listening because you wanted to give empathy. It involves attempting to the understanding the feelings and emotions of the speaker. It also means that you need to put yourself into the speaker's shoes and share their thoughts as well. You need to understand what they feel. Next is appreciative listening. Simply saying it is listening for you to appreciate. Now, examples of this are listening to music or listening for enjoyment, because this is a type of listening when you are trying to relax. Listening to podcasts, or a lot of examples then. We also have the critical listening. It is akin or a sibling to critical reading. This both involves analysis of the information being received and aligned with what you are really or already know or believe. This can be listening to speeches of politicians, listening to speeches of influencers. If it also involves the analysis of what they're trying to say, it also involves deep understanding on their thoughts and different contexts. Next is the discriminative listening. This is the most basic form of listening and does not involve the understanding of the meaning of the words or phrases, but merely the different sounds that are produced. Now, for example, if you hear meow, you discriminate it or you interpret it as a sound of a cat. If you hear ow ow, you then presume that that is the sound of a dog. If you hear what if you hear quack quack, then that is the sound of a duck. So that is discriminative listening. You discriminate the different sounds. If you hear the voice of your mom, then that is your mom. If you hear the voice of your dad, then that is your dad. That is the discriminative listening that I am trying to tell you. And that will be the end of Module 3. Thank you so much for listening and watching this video. Once more, Module 3 was about the types of communication and effective communication skills in oral communication.